Welcome back to Consensus Unreality. We're continuing our foray into the world of short science fictional stories. But something interesting has happened in the news lately.
Something.
A couple things.
Yeah.
I don't really watch the news anymore, but I hear that they sent a spaceship off the Earth. They sent a spaceship off the Earth for the first time. And that's pretty cool. It went far. Have you been paying attention at all to the Artemis 2 space thing?
Yeah, I would say this time we were ready. The boys were on it. We deployed a team of boys on X.com to analyze the footage and tell us that it's all three-legged.
It's fake.
Slop.
I do like that. I feel like that's the true calling of the sort of AI uncertainty that we're in right now, which is just like further moon voyage denial. It's really kind of like if you boiled it down to its alchemical absolute base, it would just be like the moon landing didn't happen.
Right. Basically pointless because no one's going to believe it. So don't even send it up there. I've been convinced for the better part of this year that the moon itself is not real.
That's not true.
I don't know.
It's not true that you're convinced of that.
I am absolutely convinced of that. 100%.
What do you mean it's not real? You think that they put a projection up there every night and they sort of just, that's what you think? Or you think it's like an artificial satellite?
I said nothing about projections. I don't think that would work. Where would it be projected
You think
from?
You think that would work?
It was
That's
projected
what you think.
from the ground.
I think it's
beam,
you think it's like the Batman symbol.
Beam.
You think it's the Batman symbol.
You're saying that because you like all that cape stuff.
What cake stuff?
You're into that Marvel shit.
No, I'm not. I hate you. You're into that Marvel shit. You always make a point to go see the new movie.
You're cape mogging me right now.
So, what do you think the moon is an artificial satellite? I don't think so.
100%.
No, the moon is important
I can guarantee
and it's
it.
Ancient. Oh, you think that it? See, that basically means that you're an ancient alien.
I will explain. There won't be an ounce of you that doesn't believe it after you hear the next episode on patreon.com/consensusunreality, where we host our full 6-year now archive of episodes, bi-weekly exclusive episodes, written content, Discord server, also our printed Journal of Shells, which is an esoteric magazine. What the fuck? Who does that? We do.
Other people do that, I think.
They do. And they're out there and they're in the shadows. And that might be where they belong. But Consensus Unreality, patreon.com/consensusunreality. We've covered a whole bunch of stuff in the last 6 years. UFOs, witchcraft, deep occult subjects, and now science fiction.
I feel like we've covered so much stuff that there's stuff from a couple of years ago that I probably don't even remember. I could probably see it now and think that it's new.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of
like a dog.
Yeah, that's a whole interesting part of this program. But you'll hear all of that and more. It's only $5 a month, people. $5. That's the price of
a cookie.
A cookie, a muffin.
Honestly,
like a cup of Joe.
We have to keep updating this. Like when we first started, we were like, that's the price of
a gallon of gas.
No, well, yeah, now it, yeah, sure.
Basically. And whose fault is that? Just kidding. Okay, so thanks for listening to the ad portion of the show.
Whose fault is that?
So you want to talk about what do you think about Artemis 2? You have thoughts?
Well, Artemis is a great, great god.
Yeah.
Diana, man.
Uh-huh.
The hunt. Virginity.
Right.
This is important stuff. This is heady stuff.
Yeah.
So for there to be a second I think that that's very interesting for them to send up Artemis 2 right now. Um,
What happened to the first one? Do you know?
I don't know. I probably should have looked, but I'm sure nothing happened. As you know, they probably sent it into the sky and everybody waved, and then they kind of like once it was out of sight, they landed, and they're like, "Oh wow, we're at the moon." But it's actually just like Tahiti or something.
Well, these guys aren't getting out, right? They're just orbiting the moon
Nobody gets out.
alive.
Yeah. No, I think they're going around the moon. They sent some pretty startling pictures of the other side of the moon and the basin and all this
Yeah,
interesting
yeah,
stuff,
yeah. Right.
which I quite like. But how is anyone supposed to believe anything anymore? It's kind of like a very strange time to do like a mission to the moon to the moon that is more or less like an audio visual experiment.
I
I
mean,
don't did they land? Like I don't think they're like I think are they just doing it to do it? I guess I'm not informed on the actual expedition, but from a public person's standpoint, like why bother?
it's
I mean,
a
I get,
it's like an act of war. I mean, we're about to deploy like 10,000 satellites in orbit to create like a superstructure of surveillance and all of
they've been
that
saying
business.
that
Well,
since
they're doing it.
1980.
There's a shitload of satellites up there, you know.
I hate satellites. You ever watch or like read slash engage with that football
We've
17,000?
talked about this. We've both independently brought this up like 5 times in the last 6 years at least.
But you like it.
I love it.
Yeah, it's great.
It's called the future of football, or what will
Yeah,
football look like in the future. But
right.
it's like a
It's
whole,
wonderful. It's like satellites talking to each other.
yeah. It's
It's very
very
good.
it's very good. Yeah.
And the it being like actually published by a sports website, I think was very beautiful. Anyway, so yeah, there's satellites up there, and you're saying that they're going to create a sort of a total surveillance system.
Sure. I mean, like, this is a whole, like, uh weaponizing the atmosphere, but also mining the atmosphere is like huge conversations in
Right.
industrial arenas. I don't really care.
Mining.
Mining. Yes, but I don't know. I saw, like, I love that whenever you go on Twitter, it's just like, this is fake, this is fake, this is fake, but it's all coming from accounts that are also fake, you know. So it's just a,
There's levels to this, as
what's
they
the
say.
Angleton, the f- the f- the field of mirrors, the forest of mirrors,
The wilderness of
the
mirrors.
wilderness of mirrors. Yeah. Yeah, it's, I mean, it's just AI, like bot accounts propagating videos, like
It's pretty brutal.
and clip farming dudes on TikTok being like, see this clip, the astronaut's got 3 legs, and he does have 3 legs. And
He does?
yeah, and there's like, not going to comment on that. And there's
What,
like the
Nutella?
6 second delay or whatever, and then the conversation isn't adhering to that. I don't know. I mean, I'm not paying enough attention to actually care either way. But it brings me to an interesting thing, how like space and astronauts and the reality of space travel, or the promise of space travel, it factors into a lot of this 60s and 70s sci-fi that we've been covering.
Sure it does.
Of course, it was in that J.G. Ballard story, The Astronaut, and it factored as well into The Tempunauts by Philip K. Dick.
It continues to. I mean, the biggest movie in sci-fi right now is that utterly ridiculous Project Hail Mary, which looks like ass. But so I think yeah, the lore and the lure of the astronaut is still pretty strong, even if everything in our culture is basically watered down uh, to the point of being a ghost. But it's still an important part of like the American mythology and probably Western mythology. contemporary cultural mythology generally. Like, I don't know.
The final
It's
frontier, right? I mean, but like
yeah,
what I'm thinking about more is the way that the person, the astronaut, becomes a symbol to the people on Earth, and the way that this narrative is used in these science fiction stories.
yeah.
We talked about on our Patreon a couple really great stories on the last episode, and one of those was from the writer Izumi Suzuki, uh, who did a lot of writing, I believe, in the late '70s, early '80s. She's
Did
kind
we
of
talk about the stories last time?
well. I talked about her one story, "You May Dream,"
Right.
which
Yeah,
I revisited, and we both listened to an audio of Terminal Boredom, the
I quite
story.
liked that one. It's very surprisingly prescient in certain ways.
Yeah, I find that her work, as far as I can tell, thus far, reading her stuff and listening to audio of it, it all feels very prescient. And
Hmm.
in that story, "You May Dream," there's kind of basically like there's a campaign to depopulate Earth is freezing people for the promise of not only being awoken in a brighter future, but also possibly on a manned mission to the deepest reaches of space.
Right.
So there's like this, but it's really just a kind of it seems like it's a government scam to depopulate the Earth,
They're probably just killing them.
killing them. Yeah, and in this, these people who are cryogenically frozen in quotes, they're transplanted into the consciousness of people that they know or relatives, whoever will have them, into their dream world, basically. And the way that she unravels the plot in her stories, I really, really like. I kind of find that, I don't want to, I don't want to diminish her work in saying this because it puts it in the arena of somebody else's work, but it's almost like if you have like Philip K. Dick's dystopian sci-fi, and there's a central character who's involved in a very like a massive plot line, right? Like with usually very large implications, dealing with these titanic figures of industry or these CEOs of mega corporations, bumping into these juggernauts, perhaps. But the Izumi Suzuki stories kind of exist in the same dystopian realities, but it deals with regular people. So it
Right.
it decentralizes, or I guess it really centralizes the plot, and puts you in the space of how you might exist in these dystopian realities, which is something that I deeply enjoy about these stories. And they the setting really, it just seems like it's a contemporary reality until these indicators start to fill in that it's actually this dystopian, um, you know, tech infused nightmare reality.
Right.
And in "You May Dream," I really like the way that the dream state works, and the way that um, it's kind of a dichotomy of people and how you deal with other people, but it's also an invasion of privacy. How even in your dream state, there's others uh, filling that void, and not allowing aloneness. So yeah, I really like that story and how it gets to that place. Um, did you listen to that one as well? "You May Dream."
Yeah, I did. It's really interesting. And the whole cryo freeze thing. I feel like what she does in the two stories we looked at is sort of take these by then, what are they from the 70s, 80s, or something like that? By then they were like kind of well established tropes in sci-fi, and like you were saying, make them sort of they're approached from like one person in this larger social reality. And so I like that part about it, like, having to choose whether or not, like in terminal boredom, to like get this implant, which basically is a precursor to like the Neuralink type stuff that uh, our our reality is currently. Um,
It doesn't even
uh,
have to be that deep. I mean, it essentially cites the John C. Lilly research, the classic meme of the monkey hooked up to the response system and flicking the switch to get the stimulus response that they
yeah, but
used for
connecting it
like slot
to
machines and stuff. It basically is like what's in cell phones, because the terminal boredom is about television, but
which I feel like is a stand-in for distractive sort of opiate technology.
right.
So I feel like that's why it maps so easily onto our current moment. That one, more than the other, I think, feels more like Dickian, in that it's not quite, a predictive piece, but feels eerie reading it today. Um,
There's something in You May Dream too, that I find uncomfortable, and it's sort of that uh, the state just kind of like the way that people are transplanted into other people's dreams as a means of continuing to exist. It's like this, but they're basically being rid off the face of the earth voluntarily.
right.
It's like the state is not dealing with these people anymore, so it's on other people to preserve their consciousness in some way. I don't know. There's something poignant in there with that, but there's also an intense invasiveness, that I like the sort of simulacric world building that happens in the dream world in that story to escape this other person, because it also
Yeah.
gets into the idea of like your concept of a person versus what the person actually, their own independence, right? So like
Mm.
your dream concept of a person and how that starts to blend with the person themselves in this
Yeah.
story. It's really interesting. I mean, I really, having listened to that one twice, I really started to enjoy some of the stuff that it was encountering, and drumming up. Terminal Boredom, a bit bleaker of a story.
It sure is. I mean, that reminds me almost more of like Ballard or something, where it's like about the sort of, not that he's always this way, but there's a lot in his stories that are about the sort of inherent alienation of the modern human being and total, like, I don't, in this story at least, it's like by the end, this connection that they have to television and a disconnection, like, the interchangeability of reality and, you know, television, which almost doesn't feel like the television that would have been around back then. It really feels more like the internet or something. Like there's a almost like proto live streaming like aspect to it, where
Yeah, yeah.
in this one scene where a woman is murdered and immediately this guy kind of starts filming the aftermath and how in the story that leads, with the addition of these implants to, a pretty severe sociopathic outlook from the one character at least. And yeah, it's not an optimistic story about, what the like proximity of our minds and bodies to technology can do. And we're well past the technologies that are described in that. I mean, of course, we don't really necessarily have implants, but that might just kind of like what you were saying. That might just be because we don't need to have physical implants for the chemical hacking type stuff. At least metaphorically, for that to for that to work on us, it might already be, you know, a couple degrees of intensity past what they're describing. Which, I mean, we get live streamed mass murders, so it's not really that different than what's being described there.
Yeah, I was gonna say the idea of like complacency and exposure and the cycle of that. It's a really prophetic in describing that. and how that creates a general coldness among people.
Yeah.
But also this sort of stimuli response that is described sort of like an opiate. I mean, if we think about ourselves, like I go to sleep with like a noise generator on coming off my phone, and it's just constant stimuli all the time. Like it.
Yeah.
Uh, Once that reward system gets into you physically and gets into your physical motions, like it's a weird accelerant. I don't know.
Yeah, it's not good. It's I don't know. That story did stick with me more than the other one, though I like the other one as well. I'm trying to think of what it reminds me of. I mean, it would be cheap to say it reminds me of like an episode of Black Mirror or something like that because it's more subtle than that, and it's less. I feel like what Black Mirror does is almost like it's almost like advertisement or something, where it's like they're putting a specific angle, directly into the frame. Whereas this feels more like it's not about a technology and the implications of it. It's about how people might change in a relationship with that technology or a system of
Yeah,
technologies involving a certain kind of relationship. Um,
right. Yeah, I mean, from what I've seen of Black Mirror, it's usually like somebody ends up in a situation that's caused by the technology, but this story is about how the technology changes us over time, and
yeah, Black Mirror is more about the technology. Like it's more like, look at your phone. It wouldn't take too much for it to be like what's happening on the TV right now.
right,
You better be very careful and you better vote your conscience or
vote your
whatever.
conscience. Yeah.
I don't know. Um, yeah, so
What if your
it's not a,
buddy had a
yeah,
touch screen on his back?
right. It's like that. Or it's like, what if there was an app that rated how hot you were?
Yeah.
It's always stuff like that. Um, which feels more like the elite propensity for predictive programming.
Hell yeah.
You know what I mean? Whereas this story by Suzuki is more like a meditation on human tendencies and what certain stimuli might do to them. And the concept of boredom in the story is really interesting too. And I mean, both of these stories to me feel like very, very Japanese. Like the concerns they have and the way that people talk to each other feel like other Japanese writers that I've read. Not that there like isn't a distinctive voice, but just like when you read like Russian literature or something, there's a certain way that the characters interact. If it's like Soviet era Russian stuff, that feels like wow, this feels like a piece of Russian, literature.
Hmm.
And this, the concerns with population, the concerns with unemployment, all feel like things that come up a lot in Japanese literature. And this story being like all of these young people are unemployed and they have like flying cops to make sure they don't loiter too much. Was
There's a
like,
heavy element of social engineering too, right? I mean, the
yes,
attraction based on a physicality that doesn't represent the natural reproductive
right. And sex has pretty much
process.
vanished,
Yeah,
which is
yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah. And I guess that Suzuki was like also involved in the adult industry over there, which is an interesting kind of angle and she died very young. She's kind of a really interesting figure,
Absolutely, yeah. She artistically had her hand in a lot of different pots.
which we love. And that makes her the only science fiction writer to star in a porno other than, do you know,
Carla, uh, wait, why? I feel like,
Arthur C. Clarke?
oh, really? I'm sure
No,
there's
I just made that up.
who is it? You have one
I
up
don't
there?
know. No, I don't have one,
Yeah,
but I would love to know. I bet Philip K. Dick has got a few home movies.
yeah. There's a couple. That reminded me of a couple of books, but I don't know.
I
Remember that
mean,
whole
Barry
saga
Malzberg
with
wrote,
the Law of One and
of
that
course.
crazy movie that we has a title that nobody's supposed to remember, which is probably intentional.
Yeah, like yeah, I loved that movie, and yeah, Carla's in it, and she gets nude.
Carla Ruckert
Uh,
from the Law of One channeling
the
sessions.
was she was the medium? Yeah,
Yeah,
Law of One. Check out our episode on it. I'm sure you can find it if you do some digging, or
two-part
two
episode.
parter.
I think some of
Go.
it, one of them might be public, and then the other one's Patreon.
Yeah, interesting crossover with sci-fi, using sci-fi as a means of like furthering a sort of other spiritual motive or a sort of metaphysical approach. It's really, I mean, it's not so different from well, I don't want to say the name.
What were you gonna say?
Battlefield Earth type stuff.
Ah, yeah. I mean, it's in so much stuff we talk about. I mean, it going back to that Law of One stuff. Obviously, they wrote a fiction that was, to them was huge, called the
Sure.
Crucifixion of Esmeralda Sweetwater.
Damn, you just pulled that out.
Yeah, I had that. But also, like, a lot of people have been talking about the Nine stuff again, and of course Gene Roddenberry's
Right.
involvement in that. The
That feels more like tangential though, that rather than like a fictional like appendage on the actual thing. Although the argument could be made, but I don't know if you would win.
I was listening to. I mean, that's true, certainly. Although I was listening to our friend, the Cosmic Clock, who we had on, who's kind of the arbiter of the Puharic archive, and he was talking about the actual recordings of the Gene Roddenberry being at the 9 channeling sessions and stuff. It was pretty fascinating
Hmm.
because I didn't realize how. I kind of thought he was a more tangential figure in that
Yeah,
nexus, but he was actually.
interesting.
I mean, a lot of people went through, and they certainly had a lot of channeling sessions. But there's the fact that there's recordings of him there and stuff in, you know, very small seances with Buharik and shit. I forget the channeler's name.
Damn.
Schlemmer.
Phyllis Schlemmer? Is that possible?
What did you say?
Phyllis Schlemmer?
Exactly. We got
Is that it?
this. Yeah. 6
I mean,
years of consensus unreality. We
what
crammed
if
a
it's just
lot
like
of.
totally wrong though?
No,
Like,
that's definitely right. Yeah,
um,
we've put a lot of
yeah.
obscure names and places and monsters in our head in the past 6 years.
And it kind of just replaces things that might be more important.
Probably, yeah. That's probably true. I know. That's why you should give us a couple bucks because a lot of memories getting used up on this wacky shit.
Yep. I can't remember my babysitter's name from when I was 5. All because I have to remember Woodrow Derenberger.
Yeah, I mean, let's consider it a screen memory
Right. Yeah, he was my
of
babysitter.
whatever abuses happen to you.
Jeez Louise. Uh,
That's not funny.
none.
Yeah,
That's not funny. Um, yeah. Anyway, yeah, I like the Suzuki stories. It's been fun
I
interacting with sci-fi, an old passion of mine.
yeah for sure. One last point on her
Yeah.
works. I just find that there's really excellent character development. Like they're very character centric. I think a lot of since we've been in sci-fi land, a lot of this stuff is very focused on the world building and having that be the sort of visionary aspect of the story. But I like that hers are very character focused, and the
Yeah.
surrounding environment just naturally starts to color in like a conversation or an interaction. It's a very nice change of pace. I really like her stuff, and I know that her work has a lot of other aspects too that we're not necessarily talking about because it's not as prevalent in these two stories. But of course, there's like a lot more aspects about like feminism and stuff like that in her writings.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of people might recognize her work for that stuff, especially like her semi autobiography. But like I mentioned, it's in these two stories, certainly. But I just don't think it's like the central focus of these two stories.
Yeah. They seem to be about like sci-fi often is tendencies within somebody's moment and what those might look like if they were you know, let to proliferate.
I mean, there's certainly like a psychotic coldness of the male character in Terminal Boredom, but
Quite,
yeah.
quite psychotic. Yeah.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, like that ending of Terminal Boredom really reminds me of like streamers today, like almost like, uh, in a sort of disturbing way.
Yeah.
Like it felt a lot like what I've kind of felt anytime I've accidentally stumbled into some of the more like niche, strange streamer worlds where it feels almost like a cult and like a violent cult.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think the writing was on the wall. You have to assume things like Videodrome envisioned
Yeah,
violence and media and how that the
sure.
future would sort of look in that landscape as well.
And it's been theorized to death probably too. Like I mean, media studies has been kind of hammering at similar nails for a long time, but there's something different about a story, a fictional sort of emotionally charged narrative conveying this sort of information rather than speculative essays or something like that.
The Book of the Law. Do you want to talk a little bit about Crowley's prophetic text? I know we didn't really prepare, but
No,
kind of seen it in the cycle.
one time I was teaching a poetry class back when I used to teach once in a while, and it was the first time I got to like assign a bunch of different textbooks, and so I made them buy like 20 books. One of which was the Book of the Law, because I was like, what would happen if I made these 19-year-olds, me being like 22, read the Book
It's
of the Law?
so dement. That's why these people are tearing down colleges, man. You're just
Why? And
giving them a reason.
I made them buy a tarot deck. And one of them was like, I don't think I'm allowed to do this because of my religion. I was like, what? I don't care. You have to buy one.
This is why we're all going to be sorting bolts on a goddamn conveyor.
Yeah, but
Because Ben was like, buy the Book of the Law. So that's what you
buy
got
it
to
and read
say
it.
on Crowley's legacy. Do you think the Book of the Law is the deepest aspect of his, let's just say, because I would say his biggest legacy is his character, right? I mean, to most people, because
Sure.
most people aren't penetrating the occult esoteric information. So I would say number one is his public figure is his biggest legacy. And I don't know, do you think people would dispute that?
No, I think that Crowley was a guy who liked working in multiple genres a lot. So I think that the Book of the Law is genuinely, probably a channeled text, but I think it's his him throwing his hat into the ring of like channeling texts because that was something people had done. I'm sure he was familiar with stuff like Owaspe or like, I'm sure he had an interest in Mormonism.
Well,
I think that,
Zarathustra and
right?
also of course it's like to me it reads a lot like as anti-Christian as it's supposed to be. It reads a lot like Revelations. No,
Reads like Revelations and it just has, I don't know. I think it's something that's very of its time. It definitely has a spiritual component that is non-human, I think. Whatever, for whatever that's worth. But I think that he wrote poems, he wrote novels, he wrote like how to like yoga books. Like he wrote all these different treatises. Like
Mm-hmm.
I think that honestly, it would be hard to pinpoint one text that is able to encapsulate his legacy as a writer and as like a spiritual thinker. And I do not think it's the Book of the Law by any stretch.
Huh. Okay.
I think it's like certainly the centerpiece of Thelema, but I don't even know if that's his. I don't actually know if that's really the biggest part of his legacy is founding that religion. I feel like he was doing other stuff as well that was interesting that maybe functioned within that, but which, like, yeah, I don't know.
So
I love the Book of the Law. It's
maybe
crazy.
Book of Lies then is kind of where you
I
would,
don't know. Or like book four,
yeah.
or what's the other one? Shit. I mean, any of that sort of series of like ceremonial magic books, I feel like might be more influential. Any of his Golden Dawn stuff. Because I think once he gets into that weird, almost orthodoxy of like the Thelemic writings, where he starts to sort of have a clear path forward, that's when it kind of loses some of its magic for me. I mean, and this is probably not the most standard opinion on Crowley, but I like when he's kind of just being like a freak. I think his like stranger, kind of more experimental one-off stuff is more interesting to me. And I like the ceremonial magic stuff. From what I've read, it's not easy to read either. He's not like an easy writer to read. He's like very purple. It's like very like um self-important, which it needs to be in order to like get into that ceremonial language, but I don't know.
It's not
Um
it's not often casual. Um, for the
or it's
same
just like not,
reason that I
yeah.
haven't like Frater Akkad, the proposed magical child of Aleister Crowley, is somebody that I always am interested in looking into, but I know that it would kind of like it'd have to be a very focused topic. Like it's
Yeah.
not for like a week episode, you know? Like
I don't
cuz
know, maybe the Confessions of Crowley is actually the most important work he left behind
yeah, yeah.
because it does kind of bridge his notorious life and his sort of magical practice and his religion. It's kind of a cop out to say that somebody's like autobiographical writings are their major work, but I feel like there are other writers for whom that's true. Like Poes, everybody's favorite book of his, for the most part, is his autobiography.
Mm.
Um, anyway,
It's interesting. I mean, I kind of think to me uh I don't know, quietly or behind the scenes, the Book of the Law is like the most enduring aspect. I guess a lot of the conversation about Crowley, listening to some other shows that have been talking about the Book of the Law and the 100 years since and whatever. I guess
yeah,
kind of the conversations focus a lot around legacy. Obviously, Crowley um, had sort of a scorched earth social pattern, especially with his own disciples who would often, um, kind of like kill their master in a sense and be like, well, it's my turn. Like I'm declaring a new aeon, or,
right,
I'm making my own lodge and this and that. So, like nobody ever really carries the torch. And a lot of people's lives get truly fucked up in his orbit. I
yeah,
mean, we've talked I think at length in our Pulp Magic series. We talked a lot more about the biography and gotten into the depth of the biography of Aleister Crowley. So check that episode out if you kind of want to hear that spectrum and that side of things. I find myself,
yeah,
I'm not like a practitioner of magic. I'm very interested in um, the history and the biographical content. And I certainly read magical texts and we do weird stuff, but I'm
right.
not like a Thelemite or a ceremonial magician or anything like that. So
No, God forbid.
a lot of the minutia does go over my head. But I kind of enjoy the biographical information a lot more. But that being said, I do feel like, you know, just as a figure, as an influence, like the Book of the Law to me stands as that background influence. I mean, this is kind of the conversation that I was having on the Discord a little bit with people. There's so much focus on the discipleship, but to me, like, you could almost argue that the whole of the West is a disciple of Aleister Crowley in a way. Like, every man and woman is a star. All of that stuff that sort of bled into New Ageism that defines our vague sense of spirituality right now.
Sure.
The decentralizing of the Catholic Church, you know, and a general focus on like a global spiritual, vague, I don't know what else to say, vague concept, you know, coming out of the West now. It is quietly defined by things that come out of Crowley. You know, the import of yoga and yogic practices he's very
Yeah, I
responsible
was gonna
for.
say, yeah, like his importing of Eastern concepts and philosophies into the West is maybe his biggest like unsung. Him and Blavatsky, but
Yeah, yeah, of course, yeah,
his
theosophy will
biggest
never go
thing.
unmentioned in that conversation. Theosophy as well is everywhere in
Yeah,
it.
I don't know. Book of the Law is really interesting because it's also maybe the only book that he wrote that actually stands alone or could stand alone as sort of just like a spiritual declaration of
Yeah,
war, maybe, but a declaration. I don't, having read it, you know, it's, I don't know how useful it really is as like a spiritual or philosophical signpost to anything. Of course, there's people who endlessly,
no, it's not like
comment on it,
it's not a
but it's
yeah. I think in that way it's sort of aeonic. I think that it communicates in a non-linear sense. I mean, really,
sure, yeah,
you're talking about conceptually importing information from non-human intelligences. So why would it adhere to this anthropomorphic human timeline or anything like that? Or why should we expect it to if that's how we characterize this text? Why should we
yeah,
expect it to fit into this narrative timeline? And I think maybe that's kind of a funny thing too of Crowley, is that, like, I don't know if people think that he necessarily thought this stuff like needed to happen. I mean, I'm not as read on the exact letters and his opinions of it, although I'm familiar with a little bit.
yeah.
Is that the first time the utterance of "doest thou will be the whole of the law"? Like, is that the first time it's written?
No, I mean, well, it was in another form. It was in Gargantua and Pantagruel by Rabelais,
Mm,
Rabelais, which I think he probably just stole it from.
okay.
Uh, so it definitely has a history before Crowley, and I don't actually know. I mean, it's a good question. I don't know if that's the first. I don't think that's the first appearance of that phrase from Crowley, but it might be. It would make sense if it was. I just don't know. Because it's not even that early in his career. Um,
Right. 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 Yeah.
yeah, anyway, I don't know. He's love him or hate him. You watched. That's all you could do.
So true. Yeah. It's an incredible story too. Like, the story of it I absolutely love. You know, like the
No, it's great.
synchronistic elements.
It's like the classic channeled text story of the 20th century.
Yeah. A
But all of the
beautiful
others follow.
exotica to it too. You know, like when you watch
Egypt.
the 1930s mummy with Boris Karloff and you see them in the pyramid, like in those settings, you imagine Crowley and his wife Rose in those settings around that time, you know, getting this channeled information, uh, and this incredible, you know, talking smoke and all of this stuff. Like, it's
Yeah.
incredible, magical things are happening. Um, yeah, yeah. It's just it is kind of a wonderful, strange story.
Yeah. And it's something that people are still curious about too. Like I remember being a teenager and going to Barnes and Noble and being like, what is the Book of the Law? and like, is in this like sort of pseudo biblical. I mean, a lot of this is due to like Weiser's publishing savvy, but it's in this like red faux leather, with like the gilt stamped book of the law on the
Uh-huh.
cover. So,
Yeah.
it has this aura about it. And how much of that is based on, whatever spiritual momentum the text has, or if it's just the power of marketing, or if there's a difference between those things. Uh, we'll never know. But Book of the Law is it gets two thumbs up from me, honestly.
Two out of how many?
Out of two thumbs, two out of two.
Okay. All right. All right.
You know.
Yeah.
But I don't think that the spiritual messages that it puts forth are particularly conducive to a life well lived.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, maybe possibly prophetic in terms of the end of an epoch, right? I mean, it certainly had
Sure.
its finger on the pulse of that. You can't deny that.
No. Fire raining from heaven, college sophomores reading the text, crying, saying, Mister, Mister, I don't get it. And me saying, it's poetry, man. You're not supposed to get it. Yeah.
Yeah. That was the first time you uttered, "It's poetry. It's all fake."
The first time I know, I said, it's poetry, man. The man is
Yeah,
important.
right. It's poetry, man. It's all fake.
It's not fake, but it's not. Anyway, uh, also read Wanderers and Travelers by Arkady Strugatsky. That rare thing, a solo Strugatsky brother story,
Mm, mm.
usually with his brother Boris. This was a really interesting story. There's something about them where it's just like not that much really happens in their stories, but it's like very heady. And then it feels like everything in the universe is implicated by the time it's over. Um,
Mm.
it's kind of just a story about a guy in Russia, we assume, marking these septopods, this kind of like octopus, because they want to track them, because they had found some of them like 30 miles out into the forest from the pond or the river or wherever they were. They're these like freshwater octopus creatures. And so he's marking them, and he comes across this man sort of at the lake or wherever he is, who's a astrophysicist, and they just get into this like sort of very strange kind of coded conversation about what intelligence is, what it means to sort of be to come into contact with an intelligence greater than your own, like another species. It's sort of like a first contact story in which first contact doesn't exactly happen. It reminded me a lot of the dark forest theory stuff that we've been talking about. Based on the Cixin Liu three body problem saga, and then developed in that book, The Dark Forest Theory of the Internet.
Right. Or the idea that like observation could be happening and you wouldn't even notice. It seemed
Right.
like they were very obsessed with the idea of first contact and what it might look like. I mean, that's the central plot of Roadside Picnic, their biggest output, I suppose.
Yeah, it's in a lot of their stories that I've come across, and also, their famous story. Oh no, I'm not gonna. Oh, Hard to Be a God,
Right.
the novel, which was turned, relatively recently into a film. This sort of non-interference of a more intelligent, you know, civilization with a lower or different civilization.
Mm.
And that's really, yeah, it's a really interesting story. And that reminds me of this novel I'm currently reading, Kabu by John Robert Russell, which, just for a quick aside from the Strugatsky story, this is a novel about a sort of sickly history professor who finds that when he goes to sleep, he wakes up as an infant on this other planet in a sort of like Neanderthal like tribe. and he lives this entire life growing up from this infant, but he knows everything that he knows in his human life, so he uses his knowledge of Earth to try to improve the lot of these intelligent but still pre-tool kind of human-like aliens.
So they never heard schism?
No. And what happens is he basically becomes a Hitler. And that's sort of how it goes. So it's a very kind of stark look at what would
What
happen
a
if,
funny turn of events.
right? Because it's like, he just tries to like use his knowledge of human history to nudge these people into a, basically speed run civilization for these entities on this other planet. And yeah, it kind of turns out how you'd think it would when that kind of thing happens. Yeah, not Hitler exactly, but the word is used on the back blurb.
Mm.
Um, oh, Tool.
Yeah.
That's rough. That's a tough one.
You don't get down?
I never got there. No, I never could get there.
They kind of bang out.
I would think so. Yeah. I mean, why not? People
Maynard?
have been they've been trying to get
He's
me
like
into
a
it.
sommelier. Is that how you say that
He's
word?
he
Showing my
also
blue collar roots here.
no, that's how you say the word. That collar is looking pretty white. Um, he is also the owner of one of the original Vero editions
Is he
of
really? No.
yes, yeah,
Get
yeah,
the fuck out of here.
I believe so.
That rocks. I love that.
If I made that up, then it's from a
If
dream.
you're
But I
listening to
feel
this,
like,
stop listening and just go listen to Tool.
yeah, right. Uh, anyway,
It's like
back to the
sacred
Strugatsky.
geometry, bro.
It's a lot like that. Yeah, it's like the audio version
Right.
of DMT.
Yeah.
What do you think of the Strugatsky story?
Yeah. I mean, it was nice. I like that, we've been doing a lot of short stories, and it's nice to see ideas that are explored in novels in, shorter frameworks. This was certainly in the J.G. Ballard story, The Astronaut, was
Yeah,
themes that he explores in greater detail in his novels, but it was like compacted into this short story. That's kind of what this felt like too but it was nice because it's like it's just that small conversation. That's all. And also in that the James E. Gunn story as well, short story. Like it was just a conversation about an alien civilization proposing this devil's bargain with this guy.
yeah,
I mean, that's nice. I like stories like that are just that one aspect, that one meeting, but it opens up this whole world in that conversation.
yeah. I like it too. And yeah, he's kind of using that form as a means of putting forth philosophical questions about where a machine stops and a living being begins. And then I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's one of those stories that you can't really summarize because it's a conversation and each part of it kind of leads into the next.
Yeah,
And
but it's a lot about like different, how different species observe us and how we observe them, and what how we try and transpose or anthropomorphize our intellect onto other species and
right.
hypothetically alien civilizations.
But there's an eeriness to it as well, where it kind of feels like someone in that, like one of those two guys isn't human, or like, it just feels like,
Yeah, it does feel like the other guy is a visitor, the
yeah,
physicist. Yeah,
the physicist, like there's just doubt as to it, like in a lot of their stuff. It's just like, I don't know. Yeah. What would an alien look like? Would it even be a single entity? Like, and the fact that, it kind of toward the end of the story, the physicist, who I guess had been in space, is describing how like when you turn the radio on, this signal keeps coming off of him. Um, and that, it was coming off of the ship too, but eventually the signal, the radiation, I guess you'd call it, is, it leaves the ship and the ship's back to normal. It's not emitting this radio frequency anymore.
Oh yeah,
But
the
like
voice of the void, right?
and the voice of the void is,
Yeah.
no, that's a different thing where it's like, which I found really strange.
Yeah.
I can't believe I forgot to mention that. Yeah, it's kind of just like they keep throwing these interesting little things, like these little plot points that they could have followed through, but kind of just use them as like this, accumulating strangeness. The voice of the void is like where, you aim your radio to a certain frequency or position, and this, I forget how they describe it, just like a collection of words, like, or a phrase, and they don't say what it is.
Yeah, but man can never understand it. I mean, it's kind of like
Right.
getting at that idea, right? That we'll never be able to understand the otherness, the whatever the meeting is. We won't be able to understand the other side. I mean, this is a central part of
Yeah.
Solaris and Stalker, which is based on Roadside Picnic. Solaris being based on the Stanislav Lem story, but
Right.
central to both of those is this idea that there might be this interaction in which both sides are sort of trying to communicate in how they think the other side needs to receive the information, but there ultimately won't. There might be this complete incompatibility, this inability to understand it all. So the voice of the void is like projecting this phrase that
Yeah.
man can't penetrate or understand.
Yeah, it's really beautiful and weird. And then, yeah, at the end, it kind of returns to that, because it's not the voice of the void exactly, but it's this, this radio signature coming off of this guy long since it is like sort of stopped, uh, broadcasting from the physical objects that were also exposed to the radiation. So for some reason, this living person carries it longer. I don't know. It's kind of, it just keeps this very philosophical, sort of metaphysical thing going throughout the story, and then it kind of just ends. And yeah, I like that kind of sci-fi story because it feels almost
Speculative.
sure. It's like classical philosophy kind of, where they would just use characters to have these dialogues laying out these
True.
problems.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it kind of feels like that.
Right.
Um,
And then we're like, Atlantis was real, and it's
Right.
fucking off the coast of Jersey.
It is.
Yeah. But we can't talk about that. On the public episodes, at least.
Sign up now at consensusunreality.com/Patreon.
No, what the fuck?
I'm just kidding.
Butchered the link. Jesus. These people
Sign
are
up now
fragile. We got to get them while they're here.
Sign up now at patreon.com/consensusunreality.
Yeah.
Hyphen.
Yeah.
No hyphen.
No. Oh, you're killing this. Somebody's going to be... What? I'm not even typing this anymore. Okay. We did it. That was great. Talked about a lot of good stuff in there. We even squeezed in old Alistair.
Old Uncle Al.
Uncle Al. I never even thought of that. What's the deal? Isn't his ashes in New Jersey for some reason?
They are,
Like
yeah.
somebody threw him against a tree in New Jersey? Where's this tree? I always forget about this. I have to
Yeah, we gotta find him.
go there. Kick some
Been
dirt
reading
on him.
reading Laird Barron lately. You ever read Laird Barron?
No.
Weird fiction author. Mostly short fiction. Like Lovecraftian stuff. He was one of my favorites. And he has a relatively recent collection out. Some spooky stuff. Very spooky stuff.
It's spooky time. It's almost Beltane. And they did the Wicker Man.
A Wicker Man. I love that Wicker Man.
Who doesn't? All right. Thank you for listening to this public edition of Consensus Unreality. If you enjoyed what you heard on this episode, check out patreon.com/Consensus Unreality for bi-weekly. Is that the right metric? 2 times a month, you'll get an exclusive episode. And those episodes are usually wacky and weird, and we cover great subjects for those. Recently, we did The Dark Forest, The Internet Theory, which is a super fun book, and that's only available on Patreon. We've done in-depth series as well, our Pulp Magic series, our Saucers of Despair series. We're due for another series, man. I can see the light going out of Ben's eyes. He's terrified.
I have some ideas.
All right. Thank you for listening. As always, we'll catch you next time.